If you could live green, would you? I'm Nick Fedorov, host of Things Green, where we introduce nuggets of green lifestyle from gardening, upcycling, answering your questions, sustainability, even discussing environmental issues. You can become more confident in making the right decisions for you and your family. So come along as we are Things Green. One of the really neat things about living in Southern California is that we have the most unusual weather conditions. Typically, it's just one weather condition, and that is just very nice. And what's really fascinating about it is that we can actually grow plants at times of the year that most people can't grow plants. You see, there's something that's called the USDA zone map, and people use that thing as if it is the gospel. But you know what? If you go on their website, they'll even say, hey, this is just an idea of what the weather could be like in your yard. So that being said, I am a big fan of what is called microclimates, and these microclimates are super important on so many different levels, because we can grow stuff usually during the time of year where most people across the country, they may have 14 feet of snow out of the yard. Well, you have to decide when your yard and your garden is being spent and when to rejuvenate it, because you know, I've actually grown tomatoes for 3-4 years in a row off of the same plant. In fact, I have a friend of mine, may he rest in peace, has been on the program before. He actually had tomatoes that were growing, I think, 12 to 15 years, same exact plant. So it is possible to do these kind of things. Now, does that mean the plant is going to be uber awesome all the time? Not necessarily, but it is something that we can put in our arsenal to know that, you know, maybe if this plant is in this perfect environmental or micro environmental condition, it's going to work for us. So today what we're going to do is kind of look around in this garden. You have to decide whether it's winter, spring, summer, and fall, and whether or not we're going to pull a plant out or we're going to leave it. So let's look at that first thing right now. How do you know when a plant is supposed to be pulled out? It's going to give you a lot of different types of indications. Probably the first thing would be this right here. It's dying. But if you get a close-up of right here, you're going to see that even though the plant is really toasty up here, see how toasty that is? You have over here, we got brand new growth on here, and we've got flowers coming out of the plant. Now this right here is a snap pea, and these snap peas really did well. In fact, I don't see any snap peas left on the plant right now. But what I would do with this one is I would just do what we call a root pruning, and we'd come in here and just pull the plant out just like this. So we're going to take and yank this whole thing out. Whoa! I guess I should make sure everything's in place first before I do that. But we'll take and we'll pull this out, and we could either let the soil rest, or we can or we could just replant. Now, one of the really neat things about these snap peas is that because they're in the legume family, they actually put nitrogen into the soil. It's a fascinating thing. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about some corn in a bit, and there's this process that's called the Three Sisters, where the Native Americans would plant a corn, a legume, and also a squash plant, and they all work in symbiotic relationship with each other. It is really pretty cool. Okay, so beneath here we have some carrots, and these carrots are actually pretty cool because look, this is how you can tell that they're ready to be. But these are actually, they should have been picked a long time ago. But can you see the crown on these things? Look how they start coming out like this. So let's see if we can pull that out. Ooh, I left half of it in there. Now, what's the real fascinating thing? There we go. That's a pretty one. By the way, all the parts are edible on this corn. Carrot. You could eat the leaves, you could eat this, you can, I would kind of wash it off first. But look how neat that is. If you have a nice soil, see these are breaking because, see look at right next to it, and it's a little itty bitty tiny one. Carrots actually had their color bred out of them. Carrots are not, they're not exactly orange. They come in purple. They come in reds, they come in blues, they come in all different types of colors. So you can get these mixes. Look at this, is a perfect one. Isn't that nice? Now, you look at this. This is kind of interesting. See how this is growing like this? And we have to remember that this is a root plant. That's why there's roots on the sides over here. You don't normally see that when you go to the market because they scuff them up a bit. But you notice how this is kind of angling off right here? That means that right here, it came up and there was a rock right here. And so it started to shoot off in the other direction. That's actually kind of fun. But we have a lot of carrots that are going to be harvested. I'm leaving half of them in there. That means they're really rooted in this. Oh, look at this. This one's a monster. Let's see if I can get this one out. Oh, I felt it break in there. Nope. Oh, yes. This is what makes gardening so worth it. You know why? Because this itty bitty thing, what's up, Doc? This thing right here, you ever see a carrot seed before? It is so tiny, it's ridiculous how small it is. But anyway, isn't that fun? You can grow carrots, and they're so simple. And if you have a sandy soil, this one right here is more of this is a rich, well-draining soil. But regardless, it's really kind of fun. And Mrs. Things Green is gonna take these and cook these up, and we're gonna give some of these things. It's like caviar for the chickens. All right, let's go to something that's also kind of fun. And I got to get this out of the way for camera dude because he's going to end up tripping. Okay, so we have squash. There's a lot of squash that's right here. And oddly enough, this is only 2 plants. Look how big this whole thing is. Just 2 plants. The leaves on this thing were actually kind of cool because they were huge. In fact, this was a typical size leaf, maybe on the smaller side too. Look at that. Now, I don't know if did you hear that? The leaves of squash are hollow. Now, there's 2 different kind of squash that you can get in the sense of the type of leaves that they have. Some of the stems are what they call spineless. Others have spines. Now, these right here, I believe, are the spineless. Let me see if I can get one over here. Oh, I'll bring one. Let me bring one to you. All right, now check this out. Can you see these little spines on here? These are spines. That hurts. Those hurt. So if you don't want to get all scratched up, you get the spineless variety. Now here, these were all zucchini. Zucchini and squash, they're all in the same family. They're interchangeable names. Don't even worry about that. Now when I pick zucchini, I like them usually around the 6 to 8 inch size. Mrs. Things Green sometimes likes to get them much bigger than that. And then if you're really, really kind of into it, and I don't think why you would take and you can get these real huge ones. So if you come down over here, I'm going to show you something. Can you see this squash right here? Look how big this one is. Now I grew this intentionally, and oh, by the way, I just use a knife and I cut all of my squash this way, and we're going to take it. Oh man, this is a big one. Okay. Some people adore doing stuff like this. I don't. And the only reason why I have this and I allowed it to grow is, for example, for you. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do with these in a second. But stay right there. I have to add that to my collection. Here is, oh, look at this beautiful squash flower. See, so this squash flower right here, by the way, this flower is edible. You can actually pick this out, and it's edible. It's good stuff in there. Fry them up, eat them, put them in salads. So this is the variety that does have, I don't see any more squash on here. So this was 3 plants, 1, 2, 3. This plant, because it was the ones with the spines, they had a little bit smaller plant, a little bit smaller leaves. This one was totally different. This was a crookneck, or is a crookneck. See that? Yeah, that's a small one. That's probably a little bit smaller than I would normally pick. But it's a crookneck because you see how the little neck kind of bends right here? That's how we know that it's a crookneck squash. So anyway, so these right here are really kind of all the way on their way out, which is par for the course over here. But I did want to show you a couple things here with this Root Cure Fest. Look at the nasty on here, right? So all this white stuff right here, this is called powdery mildew. Powdery mildew is a fungus, and it inhibits the exchanges of starches and sugars to the sun. Now this particular plant is an old plant, so therefore I'm not too worried about it. The thing is spent, it's going to be cut out. Everything will get into being pulled out of here, so I'm not going to worry about it. We'll just let it take over. In fact, we'll pull it out beforehand because these plants really did their due diligence. Now, if you come over here, you're going to see this. This is kind of cool. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of growing these torpedo size like this. This is kind of ridiculous, but there is a reason why I allowed these plants to do this. And the reason for it are for the seeds. So you see all these little seeds right here? These are squash seeds. And you take these squash seeds and you will be able to replant them. So I'll take the guts out like this, and then I'll take just the thick ones. So this one right here is not very that well developed right here. But you want to take the thick ones, the juicy ones, and you're going to wash them. You're going to pat them, after you wash them, you're going to pat them dry. Once they're patted dry, then you can take them and put them in a airtight container, mark it, put the year on it, and then you can plant them next year. And it's really important to do that. I'll put a saltine cracker inside of the airtight container because that'll help draw out any moisture, or you could use cotton balls. Now to cut these things open, I don't care what you do. use some kind of sharp utensil. I've cut these things open with sawzalls. I've cut them open with these kind of carpenter saws. These skins can get tough, and if you look, the darker that they are, this one was actually probably picked. See how dark this is? This particular squash, this was probably picked about 4, maybe even 6 weeks ago. So anyway, this is really kind of a neat thing to do. And you'll be able to extend your harvest. That's the best part about it. Now, this right here is, I've got a lot of social media on this. There, people are wondering what in the world was going on, what I did. These are cucumbers. These cucumbers as well are slowing down quite a bit. The amount of cucumbers that we got out of here, the amount of pickles that we made was absolutely phenomenal. You have to pick your garden every single day. Get out there, you get close with it. And people were wondering, how come I'm not trellising them? Well, these are vines and they can be trellised. In fact, we're going to go take a look at a trellised one in a second here. But one of the things that we have to do is that whether they're on the ground or not, get in here and pick it up and look around. Because when you pick it up, oh, look at this, look at it. Got the mother load. Look at this. I love this. This is what life is all about right here. Oh, I love these. These are nice and small. Again, these are the size that I like. Although these can actually turn into these really big pickle spears, which is kind of cool. And you know what? I don't even wash these when they're out here. You probably should, because there's a lot of fly pollination, especially when you have chickens and dogs and things like that running around. Probably should wash it off, but and this variety, it isn't bitter. It's in poor form to eat and do that. Okay, so we got more that are over here. Look at this. We got more, and if you notice, when I pick them, I like to pick them with a little bit of the stem on there. It helps preserve them for a longer period of time. These are, look at this. This is amazing. They're everywhere. Look at that. Who doesn't want to grow something like this? That's what I love. Anyway, so we're doing this. We're doing really well. Oh, here, check this out. You ever see this before? This is what we call like a ship in a bottle. This is a pickle in a bottle. How are you going to get that out? How did it get in there? I've had people ask me all the time, did you cut off the bottom? I didn't cut off the bottom. You actually grow it in here. What you need to do is find a small, let's see. Oh, here we go. Here we go. See this? So this is a little bit bigger container. When the pickle is small enough to fit through the front over here, I sure hope you can get that, man. That's beautiful. Then what you do is you just put the pickle inside of it, and then I hide it underneath, and it'll actually grow inside. Then what we do, see if I have any more in here. Normally what I do is I keep a couple of extra bottles lying around, and when I see a pickle, I'll put it in. But anyway, isn't that just a lot of fun? A pickle in a bottle. I sure love that. And then you just make a brine, put it in the brine, and it makes a really fun thing to give away to people. Now we talked about taking these things and growing them on trellises. This right here is what they call a patio variety of a cucumber. It doesn't get much bigger than this. It's small. It's you can grow it up on the trellis. Here we have it on our InStyleSteel.com whole tomato cage. See, the pickles just go right on top like this. You don't get a whole lot of pickles off of these, or I call them pickles, cucumbers, same thing as far as I'm concerned. You don't get a whole lot of them on there, but they are definitely there. This is a larger variety. Let's see if there's... okay, so come here. See how tiny this one is? That's a good size to put the bottle. And let's see, do I have a bottle on one of these? Oh yeah, well I got one over here. This is a bigger one. I guess we've already seen it. We don't have to see it again. But anyway, yeah, so what you got to do is you got to take these and you have to actually string them up. There's another one. Look at the size of that. That's another one that'll fit in a bottle very easily. So if you want to trellis these things up, you can trellis them up and they'll hold on there. Now this is kind of a lot of fun. Remember I told you about the beans? This right here is a bean plant, and I planted it in here not necessarily wanting to get any beans, but look how pretty this flower is. I think that is just gorgeous. That is just a nice little dainty flower. We're going to get beans off of this thing, but they're legumes, and that's what it's doing. It is putting in the nutrition inside of the nitrogen inside. Now we have all kinds of eggplant over here. Another one, absolutely gorgeous flower. Check this one out right here. Look at this flower. Isn't this pretty? If anything, you can grow these just for the flowers, but why just do that when you can get, why could you do this? This is a small one. This is a small one. Look at that. Eggplant. You know how I like my eggplant? I like to take it, slice it, and then give it an egg dip, and then put it in some panko crumbs, and then air fry it. Oh, I could eat those all day long. So lots of these things. Normally they get quite a bit bigger, and so we're a little bit early on some of these, although we have harvested a ton of these, you know, and there's a couple of different flavors in here too. So you have different colors of them as well. So there's a lot of different flavors, a lot of different cultivars that you can grow. All right, so let's talk about the corn real quick over here. And the corn is pretty fascinating because it is probably hands down the #1 crop that is grown in the United States. It's a beautiful plant to have. And it is the only vegetable that you absolutely 100% have to plant in clumps close together because they have to cross-pollinate with each other. And it's also the only domesticated one. Corn does not grow in the wild any longer. Maize is a different plant than corn. Corn was actually brought in, was hybridized from maize. And it was native of Mexico, and it was a little, actually kind of looked like the tops of these right here. And there was only maybe a few kernels that looked like that were growing on the top of here. And it would kind of look like corn. And anyway, they were able to hybridize it off, and to make it different, because there's corn that is used for fuel, for feed, for making flour, for popcorn, for decorative corn. I mean, the list really goes on how many different ways that you can grow the corn and what it does. So corn should be, as I mentioned, planted close to each other. We have corn way over here that died off, and then 6 weeks later we planted some more. And then 6 weeks, actually, this was 6 weeks later because this already has the corn on it. And then 6 weeks after that, we planted this corn. And then we're going to plant some more corn so that you can get a perpetual amount of crops off of these things. Now, picking the corn You know, it's really kind of an interesting thing on picking the corn because they all develop differently at different times in different ways. So usually when the tassels right here start browning out on you, you're going to see that that's when we're going to pick it. Okay. Now, if I feel this, I could tell it's not very thick with the corn in here. Let's see if I can open it up. Let's see here. Yeah, this is underdeveloped. So underdeveloped there, either too young or not the right amount of pollination happened over here, but regardless, it's still good. You notice stuff turns into sugar? You gotta be careful with it. We'll eat that later. All right, so we had that. We had the corn. And lastly, I think what I want to do is share this with you. Have you ever seen how peppers grow? Some peppers grow like at an angle and they'll go downwards. These peppers right here, they grow upwards. It's a little yellow pepper. And look how cute these are. There's hundreds and hundreds of them, and these babies are hot. Now you're going to think, well, it's not a ghost pepper. No, it's not a ghost pepper, but it's still really hot. These peppers are kind of cool because they are in the heat is measured on what's called a Scoville scale, and the Scoville scale, it measures on a level from 0 to into the millions. And of course, the ghost peppers are probably one of the most famous. Jalapenos aren't as hot, of course, and it just goes like crazy. And what they do is that they have people that actually test the taste of these. And that's why the numbers on a Scoville scale, you could have something that's maybe between a 2,000 to a 5,000, and that could be your Anaheim chili. Or if it is the jalapeno, you're looking at maybe 8,000 to 10,000. My numbers are off, but I'm just kind of giving you examples here. And it's actually the little pith that's inside there that where you get your heat. Most of the peppers, they come to the outside over here, is not as hot as it would be inside of the pith. Now, I'm not going to open this up. I could already smell it on me. But this right here was a tri plant because I am growing, we've got these little bell peppers on here too. So there was 3 kind of different peppers. Maybe there was just 2. But somebody picked all my peppers. I'm going to pick this one. Isn't this cute? That's just cute like this. Now, we can harvest the seeds out of these just like we did. Let's see here. Anyway, we could harvest the seeds out of here just like we did with the squash, and we could replant them. The reason why we could replant all these is that these are not plants that are patented. So these little tiny seeds in here, we could take these seeds and we can replant them. So hopefully you can see what that looks like. It's kind of cool, huh? Again, we're gonna taste it. I said lastly, we're gonna go lastly over here. These tomatoes are actually kind of cool because these tomatoes, we planted them this year. I have no idea what they are. I know what variety they are. These seeds were about 15 years old. It took them a long time to get to this point. And now we're starting to see some of the benefits of it. Hands down, look how gnarly this looks. Isn't this disgusting looking? This is going to be the absolute best tasting tomato. This is an heirloom tomato. When you have this cat facing, that's what this is called, cat facing on here. And they're all gnarly looking. You see, those are going to tell you that those are tomatoes which are absolutely perfect for us to eat. They're beautiful plants. They're not the round tomatoes that you're normally used to in the store, because all of those characteristics were taken and they were hybridized out. So when you have an heirloom tomato, that's what you're going to end up going. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens with a garden and the characteristics of the garden. And you have to decide how you're going to take it, whether you're going to grow them in containers or whether you're going to grow them in the ground, you're going to grow them in pots. It's a fascinating world. Thanks for joining me on another excursion of Things Green. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain so you can become exposed to a green lifestyle inside and outside of the home and community, all on your terms. Join me next time right here as we help you with things green.